You can hear it before you can see it. The increasingly loud rumbling, hundreds of small engines running, like a fast approaching swarm of mechanical bees. Then, in a moment, a wave of riders descends on the until then quiet avenue. Dirt bikes, ATVs, painted in a rainbow of garish colors. It's like some scene in the post-apocalyptic film Mad Max. Many of the motorists are wearing helmets, but many others are not. A few bold riders at the front start popping wheelies, performing burnouts, and weaving between rows of traffic. Some pause momentarily at a red light. The reckless drive right through. Pedestrians stop and gaze in awe, for a moment entranced by the show. And then, just as quickly as they came, they are gone. It's quite a spectacle. Dangerous, for sure, and clearly illegal, but also strangely exciting. Flip on your TV though, and you'll probably witness a very different telling of events. These are violent criminals taking over the streets. Gang activity, gun violence, and drugs can't be far behind. This is the simple narrative that your local single-digit news channel likes to tell. Like most simple narratives though, the truth is many grades more complicated. This harsh depiction warrants a closer look. Urban dirt biking is far from new. For obvious reasons, it's impossible to precisely pin down the first time someone had the idea to ride an off-road vehicle through city streets. But many argue that it started in Baltimore, sometime during the mid-1990s. Dirt bikes, while costing several $1,000s, are far more affordable than cars, and can be assembled at home from parts. A lot of early riders see riding as an escape, and also a chance to build community, make friends, or just have some fun. One of these men, Steve Honda of the group RIDEOUT Wheelie Boys, explains how he first got into biking. Living in the hood was crazy. Everything was negative. Junkies, drugs, killing, shooting. It wasn't nothing positive. You could easily not care. Dirt bikes saved my life and gave me a reason to want to live and go on. Soon the biking craze spreads to nearby major cities like New York and Philadelphia. Shay Evans, a rider from Harlem who also formed a bike group in 1999, describes a similar motivation. There was no place for us to go ride. There was no place to release our stress. To ride bikes for 4 hours, not killing each other, that was the premise. There was no arguments, no gang violence. Pretty soon, signature elements of the bike life culture start to crystallize. A few examples. The RIDEOUT, a coordinated group ride through a city's central thoroughfares, usually held on a weekend afternoon. The formation of crews, groups of riders with some shared identity or characteristic which compete against other crews. And of course, the emphasis on developing and mastering new tricks as a form of art and self-expression. It's a small but passionate group of aficionados, at least at first, but it won't stay that way for long. As urban dirt biking starts to catch on, many outside the culture, predominantly business owners and residents in wealthier areas, begin to complain. A lot of these grievances, no doubt, are fair. Many worry about public safety and a negative economic impact. A series of accidents related to off-road vehicles galvanizes cities to begin punitive crackdowns against the practice. Baltimore bans dirt bikes and ATVs as early as 2000. Other cities followed suit. Philadelphia is one of the last to do so in 2012. With the advent of social media, urban off-roading balloons in popularity. So does the backlash. Washington, D.C. starts the Bonus to Phone Us bounty program, offering $250 to anyone who reports an unlawful vehicle. Police first adopt a strategy of chasing perpetrators. However, this dangerous practice is prohibited after a federal lawsuit brought forth by the mother of a biker who died in one such high-speed pursuit. Upon enacting this no-chase policy, law enforcement looks for alternatives. Baltimore in 2016 launches its Dirt Bike Task Force under the leadership of Police Commissioner Kevin Davis. Davis, in setting out the campaign, describes riders as gun-toting criminals, a characterization which begs the question, is this in any way a useful thing to say? For one, it's inaccurate. Many riders do not carry guns, and the only crime they are committing is riding a prohibited vehicle, an action which, unless done in a woefully and exceedingly reckless manner, does not imply malicious intent. Moreover, characterizing riders as evil and an enemy is sure to foster an antagonistic relationship with law enforcement, when dialogue and collaboration might go way further towards solving the problem. One of the main strategies of the Baltimore Task Force and other comparable units has been mass vehicle seizures. In 2022, New York City made a public display of crushing nearly 100 confiscated vehicles. All of this sends a message, of course. But is it the right one? The crucial viewpoint that gets lost in all of this is that of the riders themselves. If you ask them, you'll probably hear that they are not riding because they want to terrorize fellow motorists and pedestrians, nor because they enjoy breaking the law. In fact, many riders would much prefer to ride legally if they had the option to do so. Fundamentally, the individuals on these bikes and ATVs are often low-income people of color, who live in places with little access to recreational facilities. Biking is a hobby that doesn't require a specialized venue, referees, league fees, or years of expensive training. And it's simply fun. In a slightly different context, we call this motorsport. But when it's a group of black people doing it on public streets, which remember is the only place most people have access to, lots of onlookers jump to cynical conclusions. Yes, the concerns are real. Off-road vehicles are called off-road for a reason. Accidents are nothing to trivialize, and they need to be stopped. However, it's not hard to imagine that the passion these riders feel is the same as that of a kid on a go-kart in rural Kentucky. A love for the open road, the freedom of the fresh air against your skin. Philly rapper Meek Mill, a proud supporter of the bike life subculture, puts it best.
I've been loving dirt bikes for a long time, man. I've been loving them whole life, so it's like, it ain't really like nothing that can really get me away from the bikes. I just gotta stay away from them, because if I see them and be around them, it's like, you don't want to ride. That's my number one thing I love.
Meek in 2018 even invited bike groups from several different cities out to Pennsylvania's Pocono Raceway for a ride-off, an experience that for many marked their first time riding at an actual track. But most ordinary people don't have the same level of resources as a millionaire rapper. Opportunities like this prove few and far between. Despite huge interest in the activity in black communities, there remain few black people in organized motorsports. Just look at the pros for a clear example. Lewis Hamilton in Formula One, Bubba Wallace in NASCAR, few others. This route, a safe, reputable way to ride, remains a pipe dream. Baltimore native Chino Braxton, one of the few to defy the odds and go from street biking to professional motocross, describes how, as a kid, he never imagined such a path was even possible. Truthfully, I never thought dirt bikes would take me anywhere, because I already knew I was doing something illegal. I wasn't riding on a track. There's a disconnect here. Poor people in America, and by poor I mean not uncommonly rich, have little to no access to safe, sanctioned venues for organized motorsport, one of the most restrictively expensive activities. But they still love to bike. Both sides here have a strong argument. Dirt biking provides an outlet for young people, a fun and exciting alternative to violence and crime. While to some extent riding at high speeds carries inherent danger, harm can be minimized if the proper safety precautions are taken. At the same time, those precautions clearly right now are not being taken. Many riders do not respect the rules of the road, sometimes to disastrous effect. Excess noise and traffic congestion due to biking make life harder for other members of the public. And it goes without saying that these vehicles should not be driven in crowded commercial corridors. Still, urban riding is not going away anytime soon. It has a rich history, and the culture continues going strong. The most logical thing to do is to find a middle ground. One idea is creating a dedicated space for riders to enjoy their hobby apart from normal vehicle traffic. Cleveland in 2017 approved plans for a $2.3 million dirt bike track, only to scrap them just a year later after strong resistance from nearby NIMBY residents. Baltimore City Council has discussed a similar idea and assembled a task force to explore options. The Baltimore nonprofit B360, fed up with council's slow movement, has started fundraising for its own facility. Recognizing the opportunity to harness the love of biking toward building personal and professional skills, the proposed new park would include both educational space where children and young adults can enroll in STEM programs and an auto body shop. Philadelphia too has considered building a space for riders. Despite initial excitement, none of the projects have really gotten off the ground. It seems for now, governments are content putting their money into enforcing draconian regulations and ever-increasing penalties, rather than addressing the root of the problem. More can certainly be done. It could take intervention from outside groups. Perhaps professional motorsport organizations should consider providing more support and funding for kids in urban areas interested in biking, karting, and the like. Or maybe the news media should work to offer a more fair, balanced portrayal of the issue, interviewing riders themselves rather than just playing to racial stereotypes, sensationalized fear-mongering, and moral panic. Or perhaps it will take the public petitioning its elected representatives that this is an important issue in need of a holistic solution, overcoming the loud voices which present only a one-sided, negative view. Regardless, the first step in solving any problem is understanding it. And, unlike the popular coverage will lead you to believe, there's a lot more here than meets the eye.